Went from condos to Pop's house. On calls now bus routes.
You know, going into the next topic, bro. This one, you know, got to me, and also it was something that I was like, man, I want to know Cowboy thoughts about this one. But so the other day, Jacksonville, you know, rapper Queso, he's a part of that ATK crew, who they're a rap group, you know, and everything. They had beef with like Julio Fulio and all of them, but he eventually faced a murder case, and he just got found guilty. But the thing that really, you know, touched me, and you know, I wanted to get your thoughts on was that during this trial, his dad took the stand, you know, against him, and basically told on him, and was a big part of him, you know, getting convicted, you know, and everything. So, and the thing when it come down to his dad was the individual who during this situation picked him up from where they were at after the murder, and his dad told the entire situation. And his dad was in the streets heavy too, but he basically said what he said to save his life. He basically gonna get out because of what he did, right? So I wanted to get your thoughts on this situation with, Queso, you know, because, you know, it hurts my heart to see this done to young brothers, because young brothers need mentors. They need, and I'm not saying what he did. If he did what he did, who knows? I'm not saying it's right. But it's sad to see young brothers not have mentors, not have leaders around them, you know, have individuals like his pops who showed him the streets, you know, he learned from his pops, and no matter what happened, his pops then turn around and you know, testify against him, that, you know, get him locked up, you know, probably for the rest of his life. Who knows? But what are your thoughts on that situation when it come down to, because these are individuals who come from the same world that you come from, gang members, everything, right, bro? So what is your situation when it come down to a situation like this?
You know, it's just sad. You know, it's just sad that, you know, that he out there hitting licks with your dad. You know what I mean? You know, I'm out there with my dad, just, you know, just on whatever we may be, you know, that my dad is my crimee. That is something right there. Yeah. You know what I mean? How's me and my dad even crimee? So, you know, whatever relationship they had, you know, that's, ain't no honor amongst criminals and thieves or whatever. So, you know, when it come down to doing crime and when it come time to do that time, it's two different things. You know, a lot of people want to do the crime, but a lot of people don't want to do that time. Yeah. So, you know, it was a cutthroat thing. So he saved his ass versus his son. You know, you never know the situation. You know, maybe until the son, I don't want to do this, boy. You know, you never know. You never know the situation. So, yeah, you got to send prayers out to him. Then you got to think about the person that was murdered or whatever. How does that person feel? Or, facts. You know, is there any truth to it? But if the dad is corroborating everything, and then, you know, it's a tough situation, especially when you're, if y'all murdering people, that's definitely a flag. Yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a tough pill to follow. But I couldn't see me and my dad riding around looking for nobody unless they did something to one of my kids or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, you'd have to have a real good motive for me and my dad to be outside looking for somebody or whatever. Well, you know, I don't know the situation, but
well, you know, it's crazy that you say that, because he was actually avenging his brother who was murdered, and this individual did a diss song after his brother's murder. So that's basically what he was doing. Exactly what you just said.
That's basically what his dad told the story what it was. But yeah, like I said, that comes down to pride. You know, let it go. My daughter just beat the brakes off some females. They try to pack her. She put hands on them. Wow. And then I'm like, you know, it's on the internet or whatever it may be. But I'm like, you know,
wait, what, your actual daughter, bro?
Well, yeah, my daughter, like I said, put tips on some. But either way it go, is like, my thing is, as a dad, is this a pump-up case? Why is it on the internet? Why is, you know, what's the factors behind this type of stuff? You know what I mean? So, you know, so I had to have that conversation, you know what I mean? Because, you know, that's my daughter, you know, and you hear something, I might want to react. And, you know, kids, it's about pride, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like, well, did you have to take the fade? Did the girls, you know, like, so basically somebody whip out a camera and somebody say something, now you got to, you know what I mean? So I had to let her know, you know, you more of a bigger man, say, you know what, I'm cool. You know, I'm gonna go about my way.
Yeah.
Then, you know, I'm cool. And let that person, if that person gets in a threatening manner, then you gotta take care of your business. You know, the majority of those fights I won. You know, a lot of times when I was the guy talking all the shit, and I normally got my ass, you know, tapped. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? I done talked myself into many a ass whooping. So, you know, I learned to just be, you know, let the fight come to you. You know what I mean? Don't be a pressure case. You know what I mean? Don't let the internet pump you up or whatever. So, you know, a lot of that stuff. Somebody send a diss song, okay, man, make a better diss song or whatever it may be. You know, everything doesn't have to resort to, you know, just kill.
Yeah. You know, but when it come down to these young dudes out here though, do you ever look at these situations and of course you have to be accountable and responsible for yourself, right? But a lot of times, bro, I don't only blame a lot of these young dudes, 18, 17, 18, 19, 20. You know, I look at the situations that they grew up in, the environments that they grew up in, and did they have, you know, mentorship? Did they have young men guiding and leading them in the right direction? So it's hard for me to totally blame a lot of these young dudes out here, knowing that that's what they were taught. They were taught. They were taught to go out there and murder and steal and you know, go out there and put on for the homies or whatever. This is what they was taught, right?
Yeah.
You know, like a lot. Do you look at a lot of these type of situations and even yourself, like in your past, and would you say that the older generation was teaching the younger generation the right things? Like if you could kind of just give an example of like the things that was going on when you was really deep in there, and your thoughts on the things you were teaching and showing. Do you feel like the things that you were saying could have been different, or do you feel like you always gave the right type of game when it came down to the younger generation?
I think our grandparents gave us good information, and then, you know, once we got out to the streets gave us the misinformation. You know, our families gave us the right information. We didn't get no bullshit till we started hanging out around the corner. You know what I mean? On the block with our family, we was good. Once we started branching off of the block and going to hang in different areas, that's when we started picking up all the nonsense. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you want to me going through prison and doing and going through a lot of stuff made me not want other people to do it, you know. So when I came home from prison, I wanted to teach homies not to go to prison. You know, I could be sitting there, if I care about you, I'm gonna teach you how not to go there. If I don't care about you, I'd say, here, take some drugs, take some guns, take this, go, you know, go have fun. You know what I mean? But you know, I cared about the people in my community, so, you know, I try to teach them to do something different. You know, that's why I bought studio equipment. That's why I always try to have different outlets, you know. I felt, you know, now they got the internet. We didn't have that internet outlet. So now they have it. You know, it's a good thing if you're learning. Like, you know, I've been learning a lot of stuff. I'm learning a lot on the internet. But if you're using it for the negativity, then you're not learning nothing, and then you just stir it up. Like I said, I played Grand Theft Auto, and when I was done playing after 2 or 3 days, I played that shit straight. You know, I was driving around, and I felt like I was in the game. So these kids, this is their world. All they know is the fighting and the drama. So if they never seen no movies with love,
man, that's a fact.
They never seen a love movie. All they see is fighting and killing. You know, like my son, I think he was 7 or 8 at the time. He said, "Oh yeah, I just killed it like it was nothing. Like, you know, like just he was playing a video game, but it was just like nothing, just to smoke this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, brains blow it all out, and it was just like kill was nothing. You know." So they programmed to where it's nothing, you know. Got movies like The Purge, with them Purge 3 or some shit.
Man,
so,
yeah, they like 3, 4,
yeah,
something.
Man, they showed me some shit like that when I was young. It scared the shit out of me. I ain't going back to the movies. I'm good. You know. So yeah, these kids they got it rough, you know, and everything is leading them to the wrong. You know, just scroll down the internet and look how many negative titles that you see all day. I don't see nothing positive.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, you don't see no good news. You know what I mean? Everything is Wooty Whoop is doing that and Wooty Whoop is doing that. Guess what Wooty Whoop said? Guess what Wooty Whoop? You know, just a bunch of drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bunch of drama.
You right, bro. That's why I say we just in the time and a place where, you know, I put it on our shoulders as older, wiser men, you know, to reach out to these younger, you know, men in groups, rather they want to listen or not, you know, just put a positive message out there, even if it's from behind the camera. I just think that is our responsibility to do whatever we can to, you know, put a positive message out there and help out the next generation. You know, in the Bible, it talk about if you are out here and not helping others, you know, your life should perish. You know, you're nothing if you're not helping others and doing something for other people. So I think as men, especially when it comes to our community as black men, we got to put it on us. We can't put it on the government. We can't put it on the president. We can't put it on other cultures and races. As black men, when we see these young black dudes, that's on us. That's on us. You know what I'm saying? So we got to start taking more responsibility. You know, that's just the way I look at that type of, you know, situation.
Yeah, you can't give up on them. You know, the older generation, they give up on them. And then when them little niggas get a little bigger, then they get scared of them. Nah, you can't. You gotta at least go let them know, like, look, you messing up, bro. You know, get it together. You know what I mean?
Facts.
You gotta at least be man enough to do that. I seen a little kid acting up in church, and I was almost out my seat to snatch him up, cause you know, he told his grandma was telling him to come sit, and he was like, no, telling his grandma no. And I'm talking about I was 5 seconds from snatching that ass up. And they did a little prayer thing, and he went up there and got prayed for, and he came back and sat right next to his grandma. I said, okay. I said, God is good, because I was going to go snatch him. Because I know if I'd have been in church and I would have been, my grandma knows somebody would have snatched me up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you can't just let them slide. You know, if grandma can't handle it, look here, little man, I'm gonna snatch you up. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Nah, that's what's up, bro. That's what's up. Hey, I remember those days at church. We did see. I still, you know, I still come from that cloth of the generation that you come from. It changed right after me. Generations, my nephews in there. That's their generation. You know, but you know, but you see, they have. Usually, you know, I'm sure like your kids and this, the ones that got a good head on their shoulders is because they got someone constantly in their ear, teaching them, talking to them, telling them what's up. Because if you're not in these young ones' ear nowadays, that's what you're going to see. In church, they screaming, they yelling. You like, what's going on with they kids? You know, they don't discipline them or nothing. You know, so, you know, that wasn't our generation. Our grandfather, he would have gave us a stare right after. We would have been having to go and take off our shirt and get the extension cord, and he wasn't playing with us. Right after, brother. Right after, you know.
I had to show